former FBI supervisory special agent Jack Jupin with us. Jack, that would be welcome news if true, if it turns out that there might be some injuries here, and maybe nothing worse than that. Of course, for those injured, it's hardly a consolation. But what do you make of what you're hearing and this cautious response police are taking, to sort of assess things at the school, sort of floor by floor?
Well, I'll tell you, I'll echo exactly what Ted Williams said. I'll echo what the former police chief of UNLV or Las Vegas had mentioned. Law enforcement acted extremely quickly, and the response here was outstanding. I know there are going to be a lot of critics, and I heard one of the witnesses saying they're angry and they're upset that the way the police handled this. But this is a crisis situation, and they're trying to get to the crisis site as quickly as possible and eliminate as many tragic casualties and deaths as possible. And in this case, UNLV police, Las Vegas police, they acted quickly, responsibly, professionally, and they did an outstanding job. And you're right, Neil, let's hope to God and pray that, we don't have fatalities here. And for any, victim that was injured, that they're going to be fine and they get through this. But, these situations, at least police are preparing for these situations more and more. I teach it in my company to corporations and schools. Police and law enforcement are teaching this throughout the United States on how to handle these active shooter situations. And yes, run, hide, fight. Yes, that's all real. And that's what we teach. And it's one of those situations where, we can't control society and what people are going to do. And I understand there's people, and, as several of your guests have mentioned, they've talked about everybody handles things differently. And there's no shame in, some of the kids were like smiling or laughing. Everybody handles a tragic situation differently. You're right. And we've seen it in law enforcement as well as in the public.
Jack, I know I'm a journalist covering this, but I'm also a father of two college-age sons who right now are taking their courses remotely. Now, that was born, believe it or not, of this, the spillover of COVID. But now a lot of kids, and I was listening to a few of them earlier on, and when Martha McCallum was on, who were wondering about the wisdom of going to classes in person in this environment, and you can't blame them. But just as we're sort of getting back to that, something like this changes everything, doesn't it?
Oh, it absolutely does, Neil. And like you, I'm the father of two college-age girls, and I understand how everybody's feeling and about remote learning. The problem we're running into, right, is half of college is the college experience, right? Right. Learning to get along with other people and diversity and learning about other people's ways and cultures and everything. So part of the college experience, unfortunately, isn't sitting, behind a computer. It's learning how to live with other people and engage with other people in society and learn basically how to be an adult, a responsible adult, hopefully. And, it's like going to a mall. It's like going to, the hardware store. It's like going to a gas station. We can't identify or prevent where this is going to happen. The one thing I like to teach mostly in my company when I'm teaching is situational awareness. Yeah. Know your surroundings. Know who the people around you. Take notice of what people are wearing, what they're doing, their actions. Very recently, I was in a store and I saw two people in there that, two white males, middle-aged, and I knew in a minute they were cops. I knew by the way they were dressed. I was in a local store, and I could tell in a minute who the police officers are. And I've never met these two individuals before, but I saw them and they looked me right in the eye and they just kind of smiled. Yeah. And I knew exactly who they were. So you want to look at situational awareness and know what's around you. And that's a big thing too, as well, that you want to know what's around you.
I'm sure you give that advice to your daughters as well as a good dad, which you no doubt are, and a protective one, but we can only do so much.
Well, we can. And that's unfortunately, listen, we can change gun laws, but guns don't kill, people kill. And, unfortunately, this is a very, very, tumultuous time that we're going through because, Neil, you and I have talked now over the last several months too many times about this same issue. And unfortunately, we need to try something different in society to try and fix what's going on, because there's a lot of hatred out there right now. There's a lot of protests going on college campuses. There's a lot of things going on in politics right now and around the world. And it's the kind of thing that you need to be aware of. Unfortunately, you don't want to, we said this after 9/11, you don't want to change your entire life because of what some bad people did. And, people are saying, should I take the train anymore? Should I take the subway? Should I go to New York? Should I not go to New York? And I would tell everybody, you know what? Live your life. Don't let them win. And that's kind of how I look at it. Unfortunately, we can't all be armed. We can't all, necessarily respond to these crisis situations like we have here today in Las Vegas. But I once again, my hats are off to law enforcement. They've done a phenomenal job here. I know everybody wants updated on, are we safe yet? How many victims? This will take several hours, days to unravel. Yes, they probably do know who the shooter is at this point, and they're not revealing that for obvious reasons. There will be a full investigation. And again, we always look at this, right? Were there anybody else behind him? Were there co-conspirators? Did anybody assist him in getting to the point where he all the steps and going backwards? And that just takes time. And law enforcement, can't be doing 100 things at once, even though they are doing 100 things at once. But all the facts will come out, and we'll find out, exactly who this guy was, assuming he was a man, and what exactly were maybe potentially his motives. We may not.
Yeah, we might not know for a while, to your point. We're learning, Jack, as you were speaking there, that the UNLV Dayton men's basketball game that was scheduled for tonight is not going to be played. And we talk about these disruptions and events canceled for the better part of valor, and for very good reason. But it plays out again and again. So I'm hearkening beyond just your FBI brilliance, but as a dad, what do you tell these young people who are just trying to sort this out now? We don't have a lot of time, but I think they could take that valuable advice.
Well, Neil, is a total matter of coincidence. I'm a University of Dayton graduate, and I was going to watch that game tonight. So I'm actually very well aware that game was being played tonight. And what I would tell I tell my daughters this, and I tell young kids, I just gave a speech last week at Fairleigh Dickinson University in Madison, New Jersey. And I talked to 50 students, and I tell them, listen, you've got to be aware of your surroundings. Dealing with these kind of things are going to be difficult, but it can happen anywhere, as we just saw yet again. Everybody likes to say that crime happens in Washington and New York and Miami, LA, Chicago. Well, you know what? If you look at all these active shootings, where do they happen? All right, Las Vegas is obviously a big city, and it's happened there before, unfortunately.
About 5 weeks ago. You're quite right on all of the above.
You and I just talked about that. You and I just talked about this.
You're right, John.
It happens. It happens in Parkland. It happens, Virginia Tech. It doesn't have to be a major city to come and touch you. Unfortunately.
You're right. You're right on all. Jack, thank you so much. We needed that counsel and advice besides your expertise. Jack Jupin,